in your shower, every drop come. Maintain the water, your business every hour. The water, the water, the water, the water right now. It's up to me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
Do just one thing.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Waterline. I'm Jamie Morris, Communications Officer in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure at AL. And with me are the quote-unquote water boys. We have Inspector of Quality, Mr. Sean Greenaway, and Inspector of Works, Mr. Kurt Carty. Gentlemen, welcome back to The Waterline, your show where you get to have your say and let the public know exactly what's going on with the water situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis. How are you this morning?
We're both doing good, and we're happy to be here to share as much information to the general public, and at the same time we look forward to the response from the public so we could better provide a service to everyone out there so we all could be happy on a day-to-day basis.
Good morning, everyone in Vigilant. As Mr. Greenaway would say, we're just here to make everyone out there in the diaspora really happy in terms of what we provide for them. We try to give them that daily supply. We try our best. It's not something that we can do right now for 24 hours because of the drought system. But we try to make sure everybody is comfortable within the time that we supply them.
And that's a very important point. I obviously want to invite the callers to engage these two young men here. If you have any questions, please feel free to call. We are on for the next half an hour and we are willing to take your calls. So something that you said that I really want to pick up on, because that's something that has been out there in the media a lot, particularly in the last 2 weeks or so, the absence of water, as it were, from our taps being attributed to lack of rainfall and the drought. Can you expound on that a little bit as to how your work has become a little more difficult with the absence of rainfall?
Well, as everybody should know, or if they don't know, all our supply, water supply, come from direct rainfall. Whether it's surface water or groundwater, it come from rainfall. So if we don't get enough rain, we can supply with enough water for that period of time. So
yes. Right, so I'll repeat for the benefit of our viewers who might not have caught that. I'm with Mr. Kurt Carty, Mr. Sean Greenaway. Sean Greenaway, of course, Inspector of Quality, Kurt Carty, Inspector of Works, and I was asking you about how the lack of rainfall affects the work that you do.
Yes, so I was saying that all our water supply come from direct rainfall, whether it's groundwater or surface water. So the more rain we get, the better it is for us. It's like, you're full in that aquifer when we get that rainfall. If we don't get that and we drying off that water all the time, we're emptying it. So it's like you have a bucket and you're dipping out all the time daily, but nothing going back in. So you're going down. So that's why sometimes you have to start and you go to ration. Mm-hmm. You got to be rationing that water.
And something that came up the last time we were together is the fact that if the water level gets so low, then it could affect the quality of the water supply that is coming through our taps, which could provide some risk. What can you tell us about that?
Well, in terms of the quality, like we said, we are governed by WHO standard, which is the World Health Organization standards, and that is a standard used worldwide. So if you travel to the US, Canada, basically the standards are set that we all follow. So in terms of we doing our testing, in terms of the water quality, if for instance we do TDS and stuff like that, which is total dissolved solids, it gives us an indication, especially at the aquifer level, if we're having saltwater intrusion based on how the aquifers are set up. And if these levels keep rising, then we have a problem. So it tells us we either have to shut down our wells, so they'll give the well time to rest and the water to recharge or build back up to safe levels. But then again, that also is dependent on the rain. And a lot of times people call in and say, okay, but we're getting a lot of rain. How is it we're still turning off the water? But you have to remember, majority of the rain when it falls, it goes as runoff. So if it's runoff, it runs down the guts to the sea. So only a little is actually trapped and goes to the aquifer. But then again, it still takes time for it to reach down to the aquifer, for it to filter through the soil and gets down to the aquifer where we could actually pump it back to the tanks, reservoirs, and then to the homes. So even though we gain rain, yes, we gain rain over and over again, but we're still not getting the sufficient amount of rain to actually replenish the aquifer at a fast level that we would like.
All right, well, you are a customer-driven entity, to be honest. You engage with the customers. And so, obviously, it's important not only to understand that the supply is lacking, and so there's not much that you can do on your end, but what can we as customers do to support you?
Well, at home, simple things we could do in our homes. For instance, we appreciate when you call, even though it's more work for us. I mean, sometimes the calls are not good calls, or there's a broken main here, broken main there. But our job is to respond as quick as possible and fix those mains. At home, like I said, we could, if you have leaks at home, you try to get a plumber. If you cannot get a plumber, guys at the department are willing to come and assist and see if we could get that fixed. Some of it might be at a cost because it's outside the normal duties of the guy, so the customer should remember that. It's not everything is solely the water department's responsibility. We have a responsibility at home to fix those as well. I mean, you could get you might have a leak. I've been to homes, they have toilets leaking and it's running. Some folks say the thought is that's the way it's supposed to operate. Hearing the constant running. Sometimes it might not even be much. Maybe you just have to do a few adjustments to your flow valve. It might be a leaking tire lid flopper. And sometimes that's where majority of the water is actually wasted in our homes. I mean, we could do other things in terms of not watering our gardens in the peak hours, like for instance, hot sun.
It's a point you made.
Yes,
Right.
you could do that late in the evenings, early morning is a lot cooler, it will take less. Our vehicles, everybody like to have a clean vehicle on a daily basis. Using a hose doesn't make it any cleaner than if you use a bucket, you know. So we could do simple things at home. Some of it might cost money in terms of retrofitting, getting water-saving devices at home, you know, but the little you do at home could help us on our end to keep you at a constant supply of water. So when you turn on the taps, you could be happy.
And before
Yes,
you go,
please
one of the main thing that you advise consumers to do, the first thing they will see, because sometimes you could have first sight on it, and that's your water bill. When you get that bill, you know your bill is accustomed to be $30, but this time you see it, even if it's 35, even if it's 40, you could say, well, maybe they take more showers, maybe they wash bigger loads, because we always say is try to wash, you know, one load instead of you have 3 loads to wash in that machine when you're doing that washing daily. And you look at your bill and you see the consumption going up. It used to be 4,000 or 5,000 gallons per month, but now you see it going to 8. You have to say, well, something is wrong. You could look around the yard, you see if you see a green spot, you know, where like them kind of stuff, because if the water is there and that place is saturated, the grass color would change also, you know, because, you know, this is the drought system, and you say, well, like, look at that area green, you must know there is a leak, and those kind of stuff. Instead you might have plants. Instead of using that hose, you could use the water from the kitchen. You know, you could use the water from the kitchen and water those plants and those stuff, you know, to make it easier for us.
Yeah, definitely reuse the water, which,
Yes.
again, that's one of the tips that's available. There are tips also on water.gov.kn,
Yes.
conservation-tips. So if you want any more, feel free to go there and check. Of course, these gentlemen are going to be with us for the next 20 minutes. I say that as if I'm going to be here after. But we're all going to be here for the next 20 minutes. So
So
if
you could
wanna
stay and
engage-
educate the public some more.
I'm sure GQ might have something to say about that. All right, so as we continue our discussion, one of the things that I was curious about, I remember getting a notice from you yesterday, Mr. Carty, saying that you were in Horizons Villas, attending to a burst pipe. And I thought, okay, that's an emergency water interruption. But in terms of the regular maintenance, obviously there are things that are on the ground.
Yeah.
So I want to know what your scheduling is like for inspection. How tedious is that job? How do you simplify it? And how potentially do emergency interruptions affect how you operate?
Well, usually we'll set out maybe the day before or the said morning that you're going to the Southeast Peninsula or you're going to Bird Rock to do some repairs or to do some kind of maintenance, whether it's preventive maintenance or it's just normal maintenance. But then you will get a call and say there is a leak. So now you have to reach out there, do that assessment on that leak before you even stop what you was going to do, because you done had those 3 jobs lined up. And then if you go to the Half Moon Villas or Horizon Villas and you realize this leak is greater than what you're going to do, you have to give that one first preference now. So that's where you do that assessment, see which one. If you have, I will say, one person out of water comparing to a village out of water, obviously somebody will say, well, you know, that one person could wait a little bit longer instead of the entire village, and it all depends on what's happening, the activities happening in that village also. So we'll just go deal with that village and then come back to that one person. So basically that's how we will go about doing it. We try to fix the bigger leaks first, because that bigger leak trying where 10,000 gallons a minute, where that small leak might be trying 5 gallons a minute away.
All right, so there are times when I notice, and I'm sure the public has seen you, recently you were on Zenway Boulevard and you were dealing with a pipe. There's like pipe replacements. In addition to the fixing of the fire hydrants, you've got pipe replacements. In terms of that routine maintenance, how do you assess that something needs to be fixed? Do you wait until you see it manifested, or are you going with, for instance, regular maintenance? Perhaps every 10 years you need to inspect and change or whatever. How does that work?
Well, most of the time, because the demand is really high right now in terms of leaks and all those stuff, we don't get that chance to go and do something like preventive maintenance easily, because the demand is too high. So you're not just going daily, before you could finish one, the next call come and the next one come, so you just go all along like that.
Wow, so you're literally on the treadmill, proverbially.
Yes.
Well, we thank you for taking the time out. You're getting rest for the next 20 minutes while you are with us. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you, oh, we do have a caller. Okay, great. Caller, good day. You are live. Good morning, caller. Go ahead, please. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller, so if you are still listening, please feel free to call back, and of course the rest of you are free to engage these gentlemen. I'll just continue talking in the interim. So, one of the things that I remember growing up, and even now, is sometimes when I turn my tap on, I see somewhat cloudy water, and I'm questioning, is that water healthy? What's the state of that?
Well, I recently, I think it was up Sunday, I got a call from a customer concerning that. They wanted me to come by their property and take a sample, carry it to get it tested. But then when they explained the situation, they said they turn on the tap, they fill a glass of water, then it's cloudy, they leave it for a few seconds, and then it's clear. They're asking if that water is good to drink. Well, I reassure them that the water is safe, because when we do quality testing, it's not an individual per se. We do not go to like a single house. We test mainly like at the source or the tanks where a large amount of water is stored, and then the results would reflect throughout the village. So I reassure them, yes, the water is safe. And when I explained to them what the problem was, could you kind of guess? You have any idea what that might be?
What caused that water to look milky, as you said?
Do I want to guess? No, I'm not.
So you have no
Well,
idea.
It's something simple.
Chlorine?
Very.
No,
What is
it's
it?
nothing.
Well, everybody usually say that it's chlorine. We
No,
put
it's
in
not
too much chlorine in the water so you could see it and it look whitey, look milky and so, but it have nothing to do with chlorine.
What
It's
is it?
air.
Are you serious?
Yes.
It is.
Simple air in the pipeline. Remember, at nights we turn off
Right.
and we turn on. So that's why along the way on some of the main lines, Mr. Carty could explain that to you, we have what we call air valves. So they actually would pull air out of the line. Because even if sometimes you could turn back on the mains, and if you do not remove the air, water will never reach to you.
Right.
And actually the water is actually on, and you will call me saying, oh, everybody has got water except me. Sometimes when you turn on the taps at mornings, I'm sure you hear the pipe saying, shh, a lot of things. The air has to come out for the water to travel. So sometimes it's just simple air in the water.
I heard that it might be a good tip to leave your pipe open just a little bit, particularly if you are at a higher elevation, for instance, a two-story house or something.
That would
Is a good
happen.
tip?
But the department usually is supposed to put air valves at the highest elevation to pull that air out the line, because actually the water push the air. You're pushing that air before the water could come, pushing it heavily, pushing it. And if you don't get that air out of the line, you have what you call an airlock. An airlock. So you could be living on one end, somebody living on the next end. And if it's a ring main and that water coming from both sides, that person in the village, in the middle section of that village, don't have water because the water trapped from one side and trapped the other. So it's just compact there with air. So to get out that air, you'll have to go maybe like tap that pipe or something like that.
This is very technical, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't really understand exactly what you do. So thank you for shedding light on
it's
that.
important to get that air out. Another reason why we might not even notice. With the air in the line, it could cause broken mains.
Yes.
It could cause the pipes in your house to rupture just from that simple air.
I feel like I had a problem. I think somebody's calling you with that problem, hopefully not. No, but I feel like I had a similar issue because the house I'm living, you're familiar with it. Obviously, water goes off at night, comes back on. At a certain point, I was hearing what sounded like a flood underneath because of that. And I thought, okay, well, that was my question to you and, of course, Mr. Carter, which is, what can you say to consumers who might actually be experiencing similar problems? Would it be related to, for instance, poor infrastructure where they light pipes and then causing problems?
Some people, you could buy a small device. You have that small device, which is an air valve the same way that you could even put it on a half-inch pipe coming to your property to make sure that, because you put it before the meter or you put it just before you enter, so all the air just start pulling out before you reach to the property itself. So it wouldn't enter the house to burst that pipe or anything like that.
And those are inexpensive, right?
No.
Any hardware store you can get them, basically.
You could find them. You could find a few of them. Yes.
Okay, so that
like
makes
you
sense.
could just go on a half-inch pipe.
Okay, well that sounds like an easy fix to avoid a big problem later on. So I
Yes,
think
it
that
is.
everybody should be able to do that. All right, so we're talking about the work that you do, very important work, and talk about drought repeatedly. We talk about having to turn the water off at night repeatedly. And for some reason, for a certain section of our society, those messages don't seem to penetrate.
No, some people
at all.
just not getting it. Some people just not getting it, and they think it's quite fine. Like as I said the other day, as you mentioned about the hose, I pass and see a young man washing down his vehicle there with a hose, washing down the drain. I drive, come back for about 2 to 3 minutes, and he's still there. But then when I came back, he have the hose drop, and he talking to a girlfriend or his girlfriend. And I said, like, really? I said, oh, you know what's really happening here? I said, that same water you're wasting right now, somebody just on a higher elevation don't have water, and look at it, you're just here. I said, if you turn that hose off, that water could back up and reach to the next person above you, all the way like that. And he turned to me and he said, well, it's true, you know, my mother living up in Shadwell and she don't have water right now. I said, but look it here, and you're throwing it away here. So he said, well, I kind of understand what you're saying now. I don't know if he fully understand the term of it, but I say.
I think what probably helped him is knowing somebody on the other end of that who might be without, because you could talk, about strange people, no faces really that you identify with, and that message doesn't resonate. But if you say my uncle or my brother is without water, then there's a difference. So I think that's something that perhaps we should do.
Truth and in fact, some of the general public, you must admit, have been receptive to the message. Some of them actually have been vigilant, call the department, they themselves practice, they themselves also police us at times to keep us, because sometimes we are the same relapse. We might be doing something just like Cobra said, and at the same time you're unconscious and you yourself wasting the water, so they'll be honest, oh, how you shutting off the water and look what you're doing. It's a one, each one help one, teach one at the same time, but then there are some who are very
hard of hearing.
Yes.
Oh, the first thing, I pay my bill.
Paying for the water.
But paying your bill doesn't signify nothing. That's just being ignorant to the fact.
But we talk about that because when you think about what people pay, again, another message that we've talked about time and time again, the fact that the rates of water have not increased in however many years, and yes, it's a vital resource, yes, people appreciate or should appreciate having it. We seem to appreciate it when we don't have it. But people don't seem to understand. So that point about each one reaching one and helping one, that's very important. I suspect that you have something to add, Kurt.
Well, like as Sean just said, most of the time you see people out there watering. Like I usually tell people, if I see somebody watering food, some herbs and some thyme and them kind of things there, some cabbage, some carrots, I feel good for that, but it's just the timing when they're supposed to be doing that watering, not during the day when the sun is hot. But if say somebody saying, man, the road out there dusty, and the watering, wetting down that road, like almost trying to get the whole area saturated with water. That is like a headache, because you're trying to get water to these people or somebody else further away, and that person throwing it away here. It really touching. But that same person gonna say, oh, I could do whatever because I'm paying for it. And that is totally out of the door when it comes to that.
It is a little ignorant, to be honest with you, because I see the notices. Sometimes I know you are working and you work as quickly as possible to rectify the problems that you're addressing. And sometimes you encounter difficulties. So a notice might come out, reads, water will be back by 4. The next notification that I get says, they're not going to have any water until 7 o'clock the next morning. And so when you see that and you appreciate that and you realize that other people are just treating the resource as if they could do whatever with it and then tell you that they're paying, realistically, we talked about the rates. We talk about the rates all the time. And I hate to say it, but I feel like a rate hike might be imminent just because that might be one of the ways to curtail people wasting the water.
Yes.
So, well,
it's true. We don't want to hate. We don't want to increase rates, but if that's the only way to get the message across, eventually the powers may be will have to do what they have to do.
But I appreciate so much dealing with little children. The saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. If you start with the younger ones and they really get that message, you'd be surprised that they'll be the ones policing you and me, because they know. So I really like the outreach that we do in schools and so on when we get the chance to, although I don't think we do enough of it, so perhaps that might be my job to facilitate. But definitely would like you guys there with me when I do, because
Right,
exactly
anytime.
what it is that you do. So, again, your work, really important. Inspector of quality, you ensure that water is healthy for us, so when I turn my tap on, I have no issues. Of course, Inspector of Works, you're out there making sure that we get water as close to 24/7 as we possibly can. Granted, you said that you can't do the inspections as much because the demand is so much higher and the problems that we get seemingly place you in different positions, so your focus has to be elsewhere for now. I'm hoping that problem gets rectified, perhaps. Do you think manpower will help?
Manpower. Some of it is manpower. Definitely.
Okay.
A lot of it is manpower.
All right. Well,
even at the homes too, for those of us who could afford it, I would suggest we try to get some kind of storage, even one of those black tanks, because then sometimes, instead of just calling the department, you'd have a few hours, maybe a few days of storage. So that in itself would kind of help, So even when the water is off, it gives us time to fix whatever we have to fix, But you, as a customer, at the same time at home, would be inconvenienced. So at the same time, some of it is left to the customer itself to help the situation, if you could afford to get a black tank, or you could afford to get a few buckets of water. I know most people don't want to feel like they're going back to the old time days, but sometimes you have to go back to the past to get to where you want to go in the future.
True.
So I just suggest, if you could help it at home, all that would help the department, and then we'd even have maybe a more reliable supply.
But I always wondered, and I look at the schedule. That schedule, by the way, the water schedule, which is when everybody should have water coming through their taps, is available. And I look at the timing when there will be no water, and I realize what you are attempting to do. You're attempting to give people access to water when they will be at home, mostly. When they will be, going about their daily activities.
Right.
I look at it, and I have to question. I said, what? Is it a case where when the water is not coming through the taps, that's a peak time for use of water?
No.
And I said, I don't think it is at all. I really don't think it is. I think it's a matter of that waiting game that you play for the water levels to
get those tanks replenished, get them right back up as much as possible to carry out that working day, the entire working day. Until that time when people are supposed to be going to sleep again, that's the time we try to turn that water off during that time period.
But then at the same time, you'll be surprised at the calls you get at certain times of the morning, at certain times at night. Sometimes guys call you 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they have no water. And they still got to understand, even at that time at morning, some of our guys are actually still out working or getting ready to go out.
Go to work.
To make sure that water, by time we get up, when we hope like everybody is up like 6, 7 in the morning, getting ready to school and work, that water is there. So sometimes when you call in the department, and we're getting the stick or being bashed, guys are actually out there in the field, actually doing work, dedicated, very dedicated, because it's not easy to get up at that time of morning just to go open a valve. Yes, people can say, oh, you just go up the road and open a valve. Sometimes you got to go to cane fields. You gotta
Right,
go
your
to
vehicles don't
mountains,
take
the
you
vehicle-
everywhere.
Right.
Exactly.
Sometimes you got to get out and walk with a valve key in your hand to turn the valve. Sometimes you have to go to bushes because people still have to remember, even while we are going out to do the maintenance, fix the pipes, we still have to maintain the pipelines. You have to maintain the pipe track. So we have to do cleaning and maintenance at the same time. So you might have a broken main, but we still, because there's so much rain coming at the time, the area that we need to get to access work has overgrown.
Right, so that is a whole other conversation for
Right.
another day, and I know that you will be back. I know that you will be back. There's always so much to discuss on the Waterline. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me today for this edition. Inspector of Quality, Sean Grinaway, Inspector of Works, Kurt Carty. I'm Jamie Morris, Communications Officer. See you next time.
Water is life. Water